Hello, and thank you for listening to the podcast. We appreciate it, and we appreciate a lot of help from a lot of people all throughout this journey. So we've got a couple of shout outs we're going to make here. The first shout out being to Beck Sutton, the graphics designer who is designing our logo. She is the creator and owner of Primal Studios, which can be found on Facebook. Or if you go to primalst.com, you'll be able to find her work there, and she is fantastic at what she does.
Yeah, and the second shout out we'd like to make is to Andrew Stanton, composer of the song Escape the Oppression, which is the kick-ass song for our intro. We love the song, we love the dude. You can check out more of his stuff on soundstripe.com, where there's plenty of songs by plenty of other artists as well, where you can license for podcasts. So go check it out and see what's on there and see what you can use.
Stay frosty. Hello and welcome to the Songs That Made Us, the show that spawned the Twitter phenomenon, #cancel Rinky Dink. and it's Jake Hughes and Connor Reid again imposing their opinions on a world that really doesn't want to hear them. So I don't know what to tell you. How about you, Connor?
I feel great, and I'm ready, and I love my opinion being heard, and it's important. It's important.
Well, you may have heard a different voice laughing in the background, so yet again we do have another guest with ourselves, and it is a person we have a lot of respect for and a person we have a lot of time for, even though again we haven't spoken to this person in years ourselves, and we probably should have.
Definitely.
It's our old drama teacher at school who took us through GCSEs, took us through A-levels, helped us sort of mature as people, Harriet Davies.
Hello, everybody out there in Connor and Jake land.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much just me and Connor. It's just us two. But we'll just know that we gave you a nice, lovely intro. We didn't give that with Ben.
Well, what we secretly haven't told anybody is that we're just recording this for ourselves, and we're not even going to put it out there. We're just going to listen to it to ourselves. We're that egotistical.
In COVID land, I'm doing YouTube clips every day for my kids. And so far, my biggest audience is, wait for it, 8!
Hey!
So I don't think you need to worry too much.
Okay, we're not taking it seriously anyway, so the whole thing is we don't care if it has an audience.
At the end of fun. And if people like it, then that's lovely. But it's mostly just a chilled out talk about the music we love with the people we love.
Yay, that sounds lovely.
Look at that. Wasn't that a little tagline?
I like that.
Compared to the last two shows where the taglines have been utter filth. Right. Not calling the episode that though. That doesn't run in line with the other two. Too nice. So, firstly, then, obviously, Harriet, tell us a bit about yourself. We obviously know you.
You know.
The listeners don't.
Me, I am very old now. I am a 59-year-old woman and I met these guys a long time ago, but I've been a drama teacher for 35 years. Which is you get a lot less for murder, and I am obviously very passionate about drama. That happens to be the subject I teach, but basically speaking, it's about people. Life is about people, and children are just small people in small outfits, and then they get a bit bigger. Some of them stay being children inside the outfit, but and
some of them don't get bigger.
Yeah.
And some of them say the economy size. I just love people and I love meeting them, and I was incredibly lucky to meet a very, very nice bunch of people a few years ago in Plymouth, and for some reason that group gelled, and I think one of the group, Amy, said it's because we were all fucking nutters, miss, and I think that probably that kind of sums it up. I mean, she said that includes you, and I don't have any bad memories really about that. I think a lot of us did a lot of finding out about ourselves along that journey, and it just, I don't know why, but there was something about it, and something about drama, and something about us getting together. We just bonded in a way that I've never had classes like that again. I've had some very nice individuals, but never a class like that. So it's absolutely fantastic whenever I hear from anyone. I pretty much have kept in contact one or the other, and then I've heard about people, or Jake was round I've got a nice photo of Jake sitting at the end of my table a few years ago drinking. There seems to be a lot of drinking involved, weirdly.
Oh yeah, of course.
All hit 18, being from Plymouth, that was never an issue, was it?
No, it's still the thing to do.
Yeah. So it's really, really lovely to be asked to do this, but also particularly lovely to be asked to do it with you guys. So it's very, very nice. I've got 4 kids of my own. They are now all extremely enormous. Charlotte, that little thing, you remember her? She's 18.
Yeah. That's
She's
crazy.
18. She's got the COVID haircut. She's shaved it all off a few weeks
Oh wow.
ago. So she's looking pretty mean. They're all, 3 of them are here at the moment because of this weird situation we're in, which for me is absolutely amazing. I mean, how many parents get the opportunity to get to know and to live with their grown-up kids? It's something you don't do very much. So I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I love COVID. Any teacher who says to you that it's not great is a fucking liar, because basically I've been on holiday for 3 fucking months. I know we spread that around.
It's very different for a controversial opinion to not come out of Jake's mouth.
Yeah, it's taking the heat off me again. Last episode was you. So.
But, I know, and listen. I'm not in a poxy flat in Brixton. I went to London briefly to move the lad out. Well, no, sorry. He is now non-binary. They.
Yes.
Look, they have been non-binary since they were born. Not got any problem. I always said I've got 1 son, 2 daughters, and the other sort. It's the bloody grammar. My head won't do it. I'm like Tourette's. Hit that all the time. Anyway, they had to move out their flat in London. So drove down. And it was kind of a wake-up call, because COVID in London was a whole new ball game. We've had nothing down here, even being in a flat, which is shitty, I know. Even that, you've got light out there, you've got the moors, you've got space. And in London, it's a different ball game. So, but I don't do guilt as an emotion. What's the point? Just get on with doing something about it rather than moaning. So, but I've had it very easy, and I've had all these nice people in the house, and I've actually handed in my notice for teaching anyway, as you know. So, and I'm starting this new company, so I'm in a very different time for me.
Yeah, you've got a lot of energy in you, and you sound quite excited, which is lovely.
Well, I'm really excited. This is Show Up, my new company. It's going to. You're all coming out. I hope you're all going to come out on the 25th. And I'm going to feed you and pour alcohol down your throats till you do everything I do. I don't mean that in a funny way at all. I've always said I love young boys, but not in a funny way, all right? And I stick with that. So, and you're going to tell me about how drama affected your lives. Before you get too fucking pissed, you're going to tell me about that so I can put it on the website. And we are going to have to try and not have too many cunt fucks in that, because it is actually a thing for primary school.
I don't know if censorship is in our lexicon.
We'll use all of that. We'll use all of that now. We'll use all of that now, but then next time will be lovely and professional for you, and everything will be.
Yes. And let's hope we don't get too many people who I want money off listening to this podcast, because that could be the end of everything, couldn't it?
What we'll do is we'll just blank out your name every time your name.
Fine, yeah.
Name redacted.
With that, Harriet Davis, me. God, come on, no, I don't even like George Michael. Which brings us on to. Did you see what I did there?
Yeah,
it was
very
good. We like it when the guests host the show for us. It makes it easier.
I was about to say that, yeah.
You can sit back and relax.
Well, no, it's good because because obviously as you just brought up, then drama, well, the arts in general mean a lot to a lot of people, and that's why you're very, very important to us, and why we're perfectly happy to come and talk for you when we come up on the 25th. But then on the flip side to the arts as well, we have music, which is what we're here for, and you picked an album that's special to you by George Michael. It's called Patience. Came out in 2004.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I got my research.
It was his last album with full original material.
Well done, you.
Yeah.
Very significant.
Notebook.
The title and the date are both very significant. I don't know how much you know about George Michael, but brace yourself, boys, because you're going to know a little bit more.
It's a history class.
This is what we want.
But he had, I have always had a pash on him. My mum, who is frightfully posh, said to me once, "Oh, yes, and no wonder you like him. He looks like a butcher's boy from North London. That's your common side, dear.
Wow.
So, I mean, it started as not quite teenage lust, a bit later than teenagedom, actually, when Wham arrived on the scene. And a lot of my friends were incredibly dismissive. And I remember having a boyfriend at the time, and he said, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said, "Well, I want the Wham album." He said, You're going to make me go into a record shop and buy that for you. That's the most embarrassing thing I could think of. But let me just say, not to blow my own trumpet, he did go, because that's how great I was. Okay, so he did give me that album for Christmas. And Wham were deeply cool, if that makes sense. You know, people kind of sang their songs and then, you know.
I always think of them in the same breath as Spandau Ballet, because they had the similar sort of vibe of like people would sing Gold.
Duran and George, Wham, and it was all about screaming girls and you know, wet knickers and all that, because they were just gorgeous. And also the outfits. I mean, as you know me, never knowingly underdressed. What they wore was kind of essentially important. But one of the things that I don't think I realised at the time, but which has now struck me, was one of the reasons. For me, it's about two things: about lyrics and it's about a voice. And there are people who I can really admire, singers who I really admire, but I don't like their voice. Okay, confession time now, guys. Please don't turn up because I'm going to say this. David Bowie, great guy, fabulous, world changer.
Oh wow!
Can we start hashtag fuck David Bowie? Is that the next one?
No, I'm not even slightly. I'm not on that wave at all.
Given the chance, I definitely would have back in the day. But the point being, even not back in the day, even later on. But the point being, it's so important to me. And George Michael has one of the best voices I've ever heard.
That's one thing I like, because to go along the same sort of theme that's been running on every other episode, George Michael, another artist, once again, that I've barely listened to at all. Obviously, I do. He's a huge artist. I know a load of his songs. And one thing I can, like, 100% say and agree with, is that his voice is insane. Really amazing voice.
And it's untrained. It's all those things that just happen. These two lads in school, like the age you were when I met you, got together and just wanted to be cool and get girls, really. Well, as it turned out, George wasn't so keen on the girls, but anyway, that's the later chapter. But they just wanted to be cool, and they got together and purely by accident discovered this voice. And they were a team that, you know, Andrew Ridgeley is got to be one of the most humble guys ever. He knew straight away, but he was the catalyst. George was so shy. He was a fat little Greek Cypriot boy who didn't know anything. And Andrew was the push all the time, saying, come on, let's do this, come on, try this, and built his confidence up. He built his confidence up at a very crucial stage. I said, I think you can do it. And that, you know, if you look at the history, once Wham ended, George Michael said on all the last songs of the last album that Andrew Ridgeley had co-written them. He didn't co-write a fucking single one, but he knew that Andrew would not be going on in music, and so that gave Andrew Ridgeley money for the rest of his life. Okay.
Bless. That's lovely. I never knew that.
Tells you something about George.
That's what you call fuck you money, isn't it? So you don't have to work again. That's amazing.
Exactly. And he knew that about Andrew. Andrew wasn't musical. Andrew got the girls. Andrew pushed. Andrew was the one who went up to the manager and said, yeah, we're going to do this, you know, believed in them so much. And miraculously, what do they find? They find this guy with the most beautiful soul voice of the 20th, 21st century by accident, and also a lyricist. And lyrics to me, I'm really keen on that. I mean, I love bands. I mean, love songs, all great, fantastic. But I love a band or a writer who will write about something which isn't just I love you, you love me, you left me, or we're together, let's have sex. You know, all those things great. But this is like all of his albums. This has a few songs which have the most fantastic, witty, funny lyrics, but serious. And he's talking about all kinds of other things too, which I love. So that's
it's a very, very serious album. But done in a very playful way at times as well.
Yeah.
So really,
Very, very autobiographical. Very much of always with George. It's about where he is at that moment in time, but other things too that have come in and the journey he's made. And the title itself is very significant because, boy, us George Michael fans had to be patient. We had to wait a long time for this album because of the whole sound which kicked off. He he refused to. You may or may not know, but he fell out with Sony Records completely and said, "I'm not doing another album, mate." And they said, "Yeah, right, mate." And he called their bluff. He said, "I won't do a single album for you." So the only thing he did between this and Listen with Prejudice was a cover album, because he could get away. That was okay. That was because it wasn't stuff. But he said, "Until I'm free of you, Sony, you are not getting a penny out of me." And he stuck with it. Being George, he stuck with it to the bitter end. So we had to wait a long time for this album.
Yeah, and he seemed like he was quite against that sort of stuff anyway, because I think after this album is when he decided that he was going to just make music and put it out for free on the internet.
Yeah, that's right.
For like charities and whatnot. Yeah. And he got to a stage, obviously it's easy to get to this stage in your career when you're rich and famous, but he got to a stage, and he was very honest about that as well, but he got to a stage where he was very much like, I've got enough to live by, but I want to start helping people. And a lot of this album is about what's going on in the world, especially at that time. There's a lot. It was very controversial at the time, but there's a lot about the war in Iraq, or the coming war in Iraq, and everything. He gets pretty political, but you can tell he cares, and he cares a lot about people. And then, after this album, he dedicated what he could to getting money to charities he believed in quite a bit, and if he could do that for his music, then it was the best way for him to do it. And it just sounds like an amazing man.
What's not to like about that? What I love about George too, always loved, whenever he came across very well in interview, often not quite how you'd expect, because he was so bloody honest, and people were always trying to catch him out and say, "Oh, you're this, you're that." It's been so documented, it's really quite boring that he had a major drug problem, and he would totally confess that after he lost his partner, he was a sex addict. He went around and got sex wherever he could. He never denied that. People are like, "Well, you've done this." He'd go, "Yeah, obviously, there's the photo." And when he got caught for cottaging in the urinal in America, and it was the trap, and they set him up. The next video he did, my favourite bit of any video, is the whole wall suddenly turns and it's all a line of urinals in disco. Disco. I mean, come on. That's just like, fuck you, you did. You're right. I'm dressed up as a policeman in a urinal, but it's a disco ball urinal. Let's party. And I love that about him. It's in your face, like, yeah, you're right. I did get completely stoned and drive into a photo shop. It happened, So
I remember that.
Yeah.
That side of it I love about him. That whole honesty, his whole complete.
Yeah, that he stayed very humble, and he stayed very much himself. He didn't he didn't put on any sort of front for cameras, or a pop star attitude sort of thing.
All the people he worked with were family. He didn't trust as much maybe he should have done. He stayed very close with that. But he also, unfortunately, and what's so weird about going back to this album, I hadn't listened to this album for ages. I made the decision it had to be George. It was either this or Innervisions, all right? So I made the decision, stick with George, be loyal to George. So I went for this one because of a piece in my life, which was quite significant at the time. It had a great effect on me then. Because it's a concept album, and also going back to it, I'm like, shit, he's saying so much stuff about stuff that I've just been through. He talks about suicide in more than one of these tracks. He committed suicide. I have no doubt in my mind about that it was a conscious decision he made when on Christmas Day, that he this was the point where he'd had enough. He lost his mother, and he lost his love, he lost his soulmate, and his life was just marked by tragedy. And so that's something else which, whilst I kind of fly away from in one sense, I think art has an ability to be with you when you are at moments of very low moments. And weirdly, at this time, when the time I'm thinking of, I was going through Ed was going through a very difficult period of his life, and I was having to whiz around earning money. So I was madly earning money by examining, as well as working full time. I was doing examining in the evening to get some extra dosh. And it was a really tricky time because I was, anyway, and I ended up in car parks all the time. Because when you go examining, you kind of have to wait. You're the examiner, and everybody at the school is afraid of you. So you can't go, hi everybody, you're not allowed to talk to anyone. So you spend a lot of time eating meals in car parks, it's like a long distance lorry driver in Torquay or somewhere where you've never been before, or whatever, or in a Waitrose car park, and listening to music. And so I listened to this because it was out, and I was, hey, he's released an album at long last, and then sitting there weeping, crying my eyes out in the bloody car, like,
yeah.
and then I go, right, okay, hello everybody, together. And music has, let's be honest about it, music has that power to make you feel enormous joy and great sadness, almost simultaneously sometimes. And this album to me has that. I mean, what my absolute top favourite, if I had to name, two of my favourite tracks by George are covers, not on this album. I mean, which is a cover of Stevie Wonder, is my funeral tune. That's what's it's for my kids. It's about love. And then Find Somebody to Love, when he did the Queen cover, which was just sublime. Come on, anyone I know who likes any music will say, yeah, I'm not very into George, but I did like that because it's
an excellent cover.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so good. And it's such a tribute to Freddie at the same time it's him, But the best track of all for me is Freak on this album. I love it. Anyone who can write about internet sex, masturbating so well, and yet at the same time give you a track which is a stonking good track to dance to, gets my vote.
My one note for that entire song was, so I put cool music, it was a fun song, and then I'm pretty sure I heard him just say sexy Java, which threw me off for a minute.
Come on.
Does he mean Java coffee or?
Lyric, in an empty house with a bitch and a mouse with daddy's plastic. How fantastic. Come on, that is a lyric. That is a bloody lyric. I love it. It's not about I love you, and it's about a kid, a rich kid in a house wanking, isn't it? That's what that song's about. And I just think, great. Madness did it with House of Fun.
Yeah.
And it's about writing about things which are real life.
Yeah.
And this album too, what struck me so vividly, probably because of the point I'm at the moment, because of what life's chucked at me, is really about loneliness. It's an album about Precious Box, which is about watching TV all day long. It's another one about, a lot of these tracks are about being on your own, being by yourself and dealing with that, thinking about the past, hoping for something better. He's got another song here about Please Send Me Someone to Love. That's a theme all the way through George's work, is about, please, I know they're out there. I have this love, but I don't know what to do with it. And yet at the same time, they're not just sort of sorry for yourself songs. They're songs for everybody who's been in that situation. It's about him very much, but it's about us all, So that's what I like.
It's the juxtaposition between lyric and song. So the lyrics itself do deal with the hard concepts, and clearly he's somebody who struggled with mental health issues as well, on top of everything, which when you're in the public eye and your entire life is splayed out on the front page, you're going to struggle regardless of who you are, regardless of what your makeup is. And we've talked about that on previous episodes with my own struggles, so we're sort of open and honest about that kind of thing. But musically, and I'm probably going to be killed now by people, it reminds me of the Smiths in the way that everything is sort of in major, it's all happy. You've got the dance beats in the background, you've got the little funk guitar riffs, you've got the little bluesy riffs at times. Everything is based, apart from sort of the more piano-led songs like Patience, everything seems to be done in a happy tone, but with these contrasting lyrics on top of it,
but I think
always a great way of doing it, because lock people into it.
What were you going to say?
I think that's one of the things that does make this sort of thing more relatable. And I was actually thinking about the Smiths as well, so I'm glad you brought it up. But it is no. So
and why not?
Well, it's because like, you're right. So many people, and he's a pop artist, George Michael. Like, whether you can obviously categorize it more than that, but that's what he's famous for, I suppose. That's what I know him as. But the thing is it's so easy, and you can to make a generic song about a generic thing. And there are millions out there, and there are millions out there that are great. I mean, I love the Beatles, but there's a lot of generic songs about generic emotions or generic things like love and whatnot. But when you pinpoint specific things, like you were saying, Harriet, like when you pinpoint specific scenarios that people do go through on daily, and then put some emotion to that, it becomes really relatable. And even when you're talking about really serious subjects, by
Like
making
wanking.
them, by making them with this happy music in the background and juxtaposition in the background, it shows that you're taking these issues seriously, but you're not wallowing in it, and you're not overindulging in it. You're sort of relating it to the fact that, yeah, this is an everyday thing, and yes, it is still dark and it is still a struggle sometimes, but it is something that happens to everyone and it's relatable to everyone, and that's why it's good to dance to, because that's a communal thing as well. I don't know if you get that, but
To
Yeah,
double up on your point, I would say it's one of the main issues with anybody struggling, or anybody's feeling loneliness, or anybody's feeling any sort of despair about anything, or is the idea of those kinds of things being taboo. And
yes,
my whole thing is remove that fucking wall, talk about it. That's what he's doing.
yeah, and
It's
that's the thing,
simple.
and you're
exactly.
it's not making light about it, it's making it
Yeah.
just in the open, and it makes it easier to talk about. You can go, oh yeah, have you heard this George Michael song? It's talking about this, but it also sounds really great, and you can talk about it on many different levels. It starts a conversation.
It starts a conversation, and it's also incredibly inclusive, because
Yeah.
it's that dance pop music.
Yeah.
People aren't going, oh well, I'm not going to, that's a bit weird. They're going, oh yeah,
Exactly.
George
Yeah.
Michael, yeah, I know him. And again, I would say there are very, very clearly two George Michaels. There is the popular, the really famous stuff,
Yeah.
which everybody kind of knows, a George Michael track that they've danced to at some poxy wedding with their fat auntie or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mine was at a
And
rock
then-
gig.
Yeah.
I got three random middle-aged women grabbed me and started dancing with me to Careless Whisper.
Well,
It was
you're
slow dancing as well.
irresistible. What can I say, Jake? No wonder. So that
Stroke my
whole
own ego.
business about that, and then you start to listen to those tracks a bit more and go, hold on a minute, that's not what I thought it was. Careless
Yeah.
Whisper, he wrote it when he was 15 or something. That is a genuinely perfect pop song, which is, there you go. Here is a good pop song. These are not, there's hardly any pop songs on this. There are a couple of nice love ballads, but this is not. I would say that Freak comes out as the most upbeat. And so my jam, in terms of George Michael, I like all these more upbeat ones. I get a bit bored of things like Patience, honestly, because I think, okay, come on, George. What was that, not quite giving him the next check, because he wasn't really worried about that. But it's that kind of filler. Which
I understand, yeah. Well, they're more what you would expect, I suppose. Yeah. They're not as interesting in sonically. No. They're just not as interesting.
And they're a little bit whingy to me, ever so slightly whingy. But then you have to look at the ones where, again, it's an album, so they only work in context of an album, because they're not those ones that just jump out at you. But as you listen, if you listen again, you think, okay, yeah. And one that really, my mother had a brother, which is about his understanding of being gay, which I think is an interesting.
Yeah.
Again, not the greatest musical track, but then the lyrics are pretty good. And then there's a wonderful one about his life in Finsbury Park, which I just love, which Round Here, which is kind of a gentle one. It sort of reminds me of the Beatles one about, what's it? The Here and Everywhere and all that one. It's a very, the name will come to me in a minute, but it's just about the past. It's kind of just remembering your past, not in a melancholy way. Just, oh yeah, when I was young, we used to do this. We used to play football here. That was my mum. And then it kind of goes into the family tree of his mum and dad and how they were immigrants. And he starts talking about that side of things, about his mum being here, not knowing a word of English, etc. So you're going along and you think, oh, actually kind of, and then we're back to something quite gentle. And then he gently strays you into that kind of consideration of the whole point of him never feeling quite at home in this country, despite the fact he was embraced in one way. He was always the Greek Cypriot boy, and I love that. I love that gentle easing in. And then you've got Shoot the Dog bonus track, which is just full on political,
Yes, yeah.
Right, sort yourselves out, and again, that's in your face and much more. But yeah, he, as you said, Jake, earlier, is that double thing of having kind of like seemingly light music and then a really quite serious message. Is that him saying, I'm going to bloody talk about it and you're going to listen? So I'm going to get you there by quietly going through it, and you're thinking this is one thing, and then you're like, oh God, he's actually talking about suicide, which he does in one of the tracks, Cars and Trains.
Yeah.
Well, you know, suicide, addiction, all those things. And that wonderful start to that, which is the God you want to speak to is not available right now.
Yeah.
You know, that's just hilarious.
There's a big theme about religion in the album as well, in general. I completely get what you mean, and I think he talks about suicidal thoughts and stuff in My Mother Had a Brother as well, which is a very personal track. I think for me, not necessarily. No, I am a George Michael fan in him as a person and him as a singer.
It's okay.
No, him as a person and who he was and what he represented, and him as a singer, I think is absolutely phenomenal. His music I don't necessarily click with, and it is the same with this album. I think sonically I'm not a fan of the songs, but I can appreciate the lyricism. And I think that's where I found a lot of enjoyment and really a lot of understanding when listening to this in preparation for the podcast. Is the lyrics? The lyrics are great, and they're very personal to him. I kind of I almost felt bad listening to it because I was never a fan of George Michael, and I know I shouldn't feel bad about that, but I was like, now I'm listening to it, knowing he passed away and knowing all of his struggle. I'm like, man, this. He's pouring his heart and soul into this, and you really feel like you're getting to know him on a personal level. And then you get sad about what happened, not just to him at the end, but during his entire life.
I think there's a parallel as well to other famous singers from the past whose music we may not necessarily like. So someone like Billie Holiday, who was a phenomenal singer, who, you know, during a time of segregation was a heroin addict at the start of the war on drugs, and was hounded for that for her entire life until essentially the police force killed her. But she would go on stage and sing Strange Fruit, which was about lynching in southern states America, in these places where she's not even allowed in the front door. And you sort of, there's always that kind of thing of, from both mine and Connor's perspective, I'm going to speak for you now, Connor, and I'm going to assume that I'm going to assume that I'm right.
I'll see. The thing is, even if I turn around and say you're wrong, you can just cut that out.
Well, yeah, I've got the power. But I think sort of musically, because we grew up in a certain way, so Connor was more northern rock kind of thing, sort of Manchester scene, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was more brought up on metal initially, before branching out to punk, which is that's where my heart and soul is. You have to appreciate the lyrics. I've been writing lyrics now since I was 13, 14. Not great lyrics, admittedly. Some of them have been absolutely goddamn awful. And I'm sure Connor's written his own stuff at certain points.
Not even once.
I always assumed you would.
No.
I suppose it's just for the egotist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fair. So as someone who does write lyrics and tries to improve his lyrics, I look at my inspirations, people like Paul Weller, who was a phenomenal writer.
He is the boss.
He is.
Is he single? Because we're of an age.
I really doubt it.
Like me. I reckon he'd fancy me. So if you could, put in a word.
All right.
Okay.
I think he's a bit of a sulker, though. Maybe not.
I know him personally, so I'll put in a word for you.
Tell him I'm not. No, once a week, a day a week's fine. I don't want to move in. I don't need any of his money, and I'm not putting up with any sulking. But I'm a great cook.
See what he went the days when he's singing Absolute Beginners, not the days when he's singing That's Entertainment. But it's that kind of way of, when you're a musician of any kind and you're going to be writing songs, you need the lyrics to reach people. I've never been a big fan of going out there and just going, I love this person, I love that person. Like you were saying, that's not my cup of tea, purely because I'm a fucked up individual.
All the writers are. Tell me a writer or a real artist who isn't fucked up, because what have they got to write about?
And that goes the same for literacy as well as literature as well as it does for music as well. You look at someone like Oscar Wilde; he wasn't exactly, the happiest man alive. No. He had his own issues. Wrote some fantastic stuff. List goes on with that. Edgar Allan Poe wasn't exactly normal. H.P. Lovecraft was certainly not normal. And Hunter S. Thompson.
Edgar Allan Poe slept in a coffin. That's good.
Yeah, I think that's
supposedly so. Yeah.
I only know 2 people who did that. Him and Sarah Bernhardt, the actress. So
I think
Really?
did as well. But I don't know how real he
She had a
was.
wooden leg. She had a wooden leg. She had to unscrew it, I think, when she went to bed. But anyway, but yeah, it's about that. It's about you are on the edges. You are looking at things differently. That's what good art is. It's about universalizing feelings, isn't it? It's about putting something out there and people go, oh yes. I mean, Paul Weller, his lyrics are, well, they're awesome, aren't they? They are just
they're insanely relatable, and they hit you. Or he'll say something and you go, yeah, of course, because I think that all the time, but I would have never thought to put that into a song.
But
he's also
the way
a storyteller.
Yeah.
What's
So-
the wonderful line in
You can say down in the tube station, the outro section.
No, the one about the hanging old love letters on the line to dry.
Oh, Town Called Malice.
Oh,
Town Malice.
it's so good, that song. Because yes, he says it like it is, but he also uses the most beautiful metaphors.
Yeah.
All
Great
those
imagery.
things as well. So it's not in an obvious way. And that, again, I've now been moonlighting as an English teacher for a few years because that's the only bloody employment I could get. So I've had to learn all the proper words for stuff. I've had to be all posh about it. But it has helped me understand, because you then say, God, without knowing it, they're using all these literary techniques which just hit you between the eyes.
Yeah.
Like the double rhyme. That I'm a huge fan of Macklemore and what's he called? White rapper. Eminem.
Right, yeah.
I got there with the chocolate.
Right, yeah.
I'm just thinking how we didn't get that.
Yeah, his lyrics, you see, he uses enjambment and all these, these posh named words. He uses it absolutely constantly in his rap, very, very cleverly, and also the witty line, the metaphor, and the simile, and all this. I don't think he sits there and says, "I'm going to do that," but it bloody works, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and
completely.
These writers are doing that.
I mean, but certain people just think that way, and they manage to put it down perfectly, and it's they managed to find the exact craft that was suited to them perfectly. I think not in a Destiny sort of way, but they have a certain skill set or a way their mind works, and they found through music, or whether it's music or writing or any sort of kind, to just sort of put that down on paper, and it works perfectly.
So I've always found the way it comes to me is it'll be pure stream of consciousness. So I'll be annoyingly, it's usually when I'm on the bus, so I don't have anything to actually write with. So I'll sit there and it'll just start going off in my head. It's like, I've got to write this down. Fuck, I don't have a pen or paper. Shit. No, I try and remember it, and then when I get home, I'm like, no, I failed. But when I am at home, if I do get that moment, I scroll everything out in just mad handwriting that I can't actually read.
You do like a Sarah Kane sort of style of just. Do you know Sarah Kane?
No, I don't.
She's a playwright back in the early 2000s. Yeah, sorry.
But it's
sorry. I just had to throw in a playwright there.
No, I love it.
Must be so
You
proud
really
of him
need
right now.
to be in front of a bookcase though, Connor, so you could go.
I know.
Oh, yeah, Sarah Kane. I'll just yes, that was.
If you want, I'll turn my camera around. Mine's over the other side of the room. But it's so everything that's in my head at one time I feel is better coming out naturally than it is trying to sit there and force it. Because if you're forcing it, you're always then looking for how do I make this, how do I use a certain way? Do I do the rule of 3 here, or do I try this? Do I try and structure the song in like your Freytag's pyramid? What do I do?
Yeah, see, that's what blows my mind, is because like any time that I have attempted to even slightly write anything, and that's not just like song lyrics or it's like a poem or a book or anything, I'm just so in my head about that sort of stuff. I think too much about how structure works.
And you want to come out
like
perfect. So me and my great friend of mine, my best friend when I was little, she's in Australia and she's a journalist. She's been a journalist all her life, and she's published 2 novels which have won a ton of prizes. I didn't know that when I sent her some of my writing. Had I known that, I might not have bothered, because it's like, oh shit, she's famous and I just sent her some of my writing. Embarrassing! Because, she is absolutely like you, Colin. She thinks everything. Well, I am in consciousness like Jake, but I absolutely believe that you need to just write it right. If it's there, like spew, it doesn't matter what it looks like on the page, get it there.
Yeah.
You've got more than enough time. Then when you have the time to sit down and go, okay, now I've got to be conscious about it. Let me see. I know what I want to say here. I can say, let's try that, putting that in. I mean, I think the two work well together. But I think if you've got something to say, just it doesn't matter worrying about how it's going to be at the beginning. I mean, that's why there is a huge industry in people who are called editors. Most writers, when they send their novel off, they go, lovely. And the novel they started with isn't anything like what it's going to be like at the end, because people will look at it and say, I've just been writing something for what's going to be, see my website there. You see, we're working on that at the moment. And I just sat with Matthew, and my daughter Jess, she is so visual. She looks at it and says, no, that's the wrong colour. Put that over there. That's her skill. Matthew, I give him a bunch of words. And he goes, there, like a Rubik's Cube. And out it comes perfectly. And I go, oh, that's really good,
How'd you do that?
But then when you've got artists like Weller and George Michael, and George Michael, as we know, took bloody ages to do everything. Yeah. They just seem to have that ability without any intervention to just get that thought down, which then everybody goes, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They hit a moment in time, or they hit a sensation, and they just absolutely nail it. Which I guess is a great artist.
I think that was the surprising thing for me about George Michael, and this goes to show my ignorance on the subject of George Michael, is I assumed he would be the kind of pop artist who does have writers for him. So when I'm looking through the album tracks, I'm going, oh yeah, writer, George Michael. I'm like, oh shit, he writes his own stuff. This is his own voice. And that's important.
Not only is it his own voice,
it's his own words.
Every single instrument on the album Faith was played by him, and most of the ones on this. He just learnt them. That's what he did with his time. Once he had enough money, he just said, right, I'm going to learn how to play the bass. I'm going to learn how to play the piano. I'm going to learn how to play this. Because I'm in control. And, he was a loner, I think, a lot of the time. Real mixture between being totally bipolar, surprise, totally social, totally alone. And so he, and from that point of view, so this is, like you say, this, you ain't getting anything except George.
Yeah.
Just him, and a bit more him. Oh, and that backing singer. Oh, yeah, that's George as well.
Yeah.
So it's from that point of view, you have to give it to him that
you have to admire it.
Work hard on it. But he wouldn't have got there without Andrew. Let's not forget Andrew.
No.
Because without Andrew Ridgeley being in his class, Andrew Ridgeley, the show off in class, going, come on, George, let's go and play that at that gig in the church hall, and him going, we can't play anything. Oh, we'll be fine. We'll just spray our hair up, put a t-shirt on. We'll get away with it, mate.
You just need somebody to have that confidence, that little bit of faith, just to give you
confidence and drive.
That's life, isn't it? It's okay. So you get the confidence, you get that break, but it's about whether you're going to put the hard work in afterwards, is whether or not you're going to be a success.
Yeah.
But the initial drive, you just need that kick up the arse, don't you? And Andrew was that, and he should take credit for that, really.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
So and again, just that day that he walked in the class and they met there are those moments that you can turn to and say, oh my God, that's where it all started. You can have manufactured bands, but they never have that soul, do they? They never can, because they are not. It's got to be intrinsic. It's got to be a relationship, I think. So.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of synergy, and it works not just on a musical level, but on a personal level as well. There's don't get me wrong, there's a million bands out there that are absolutely phenomenal that just don't work because they don't like each other. I mean. The famous one I would say is Fleetwood Mac. I mean, when they made, in my opinion, one of the best albums, if not the best album of all time, which is Dreams. It's just like Rumours. Sorry, Dreams is a track on it. Rumours. It's like they hated each other completely, but obviously there's still chemistry there and personality together. But that's the reason why they can't stay together, and why they've not necessarily made any great. Not any great music since, but nowhere near anything as good since.
They were just a bunch of egos, weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, I think at that time as well, you had like, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had just split up. You had one of them's wife had split up and was fucking someone who was doing stagehand stuff for the shows.
Yeah.
It was all just like this weird
And
incestuous moment in time.
But it worked
Everybody's
because
fucking the wrong
all of
people.
those. But it worked because all of those songs were about each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
And they
You
were
look at
like,
the awkwardness.
yeah, this is the end of the band, so let's at least make something out of it, like sort of thing.
You look at the awkwardness on Stevie Nicks' face when she has to sing "Go Your Own Way." I mean, Lindsay
Yeah.
penned it about her. You're like, oh,
Completely.
you poor
Yeah.
bastard.
Well, Stevie Nicks apparently responsible for more wet dreams than any other woman in America. But anyway, moving on. The other album where they were splitting up, where I think they produced their best tracks, and again, this is so uncool it's cool, was ABBA. Their best tracks were all when they were splitting up. They just suddenly, they went from those kind of, nice enough, and then there are a couple of tracks which really, really have a bit going for them, and those are when they're all fighting like cat and dog. But then George, he wasn't fighting with a person; he was definitely fighting with himself, wasn't he?
Completely.
And so that that out of that comes greatness too, as we just said. Is it?
It's struggle in general, yeah. I think because going back to what this is going to sound really like
Artsy, pretentious.
like a philosophical.
Hooray! I've taught you well.
Yeah, philosophical. But I suppose like the idea is like when you have something to say, you make great work when you have something to say, and you have something to say when it makes you feel an emotion that's not what you usually feel. Whether that's something elation that makes you feel a lot better than you usually do, or the opposite. And I think any form of great art comes from some form of discomfort, whether that's a positive discomfort or a negative discomfort. Yeah. And in general, I think the more you struggle day to day, or the more you experience day to day emotionally, the more likely you are to have those uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
So I think,
your own point.
So I think I'm not an advocate in any way for someone feeling horrible like daily, but that's a big reason why some of these amazing people that we all love and know struggle really badly, because they put their struggle to great use.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily putting it in a positive light, not to say, let's keep them struggling, it's good. Yeah. I mean, like it's rough when people turn around and say like, oh, Eminem was a better rapper when he was on drugs, and like, well, whether that's true or not, the man sorted his life out, so give him some slack, sort of thing. But
well, the thing that can lend credence to you here is obviously I can only talk about my own personal experiences to a certain extent, because as much as we can read about George Michael and say he's had this happen to him, I'm not in his head knowing what he's thinking at certain times.
Yeah.
But with my issues, where I'm very up and down, it can be a blessing and a curse. But the ultimate way that I think about it, and it's going to sound quite lame now, it's also my superpower. Because if I'm sat there and I'm in a really shit mood, do you know what I can do? I can write. Yeah. And I can write for a long bloody time. If I'm in a ridiculously over-the-top mood where I believe on God, I can still write.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different inflection on everything.
I think it's actually Stephen Fry. It may have been Stephen Fry that said a very similar thing. He says it's his superpower, and it's what he doesn't necessarily love that it's a part of him, but he says that that's what gives him motivation, and that's what keeps him going. Yeah.
You sort of you kind of don't want to lose it, even though you don't want it. Yeah. It's like somebody giving you a tarot for a gift.
Documentary, didn't he? And he asked all the people on it, and only one of them said, "Yeah, take it away." For most of them, they said, "No, but this is me. This is so much part of what I am."
Exactly.
And, as our knowledge of mental illness and health increases all the time, it's about understanding that, like anything, it is incredibly valuable. We just need to be able to make sure that people who do have that up and down or whatever are able to live their best life, I guess.
It's trying to harness it in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think now, I mean, I have, over the years, have taught a lot of autists of various levels and descriptions and all the rest of it, and I'm thinking Microsoft and Apple would not exist if it wasn't for those autistic nerds sitting there going, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely driven by that, and you think, let's recognize those qualities and allow a world, we're back to that, I mean, a bit hippie, but allow a world in which that's okay. And there was this fabulous documentary about by an actress, the one that she's in, Miranda. She's the one who always says "bear with," and her son is Downs, and she said Downs people are gentle. They are very black and white. They're incredibly loving. Why wouldn't we need more of that? And I thought, Christ, she's right. You know, why do we think there's something wrong with that element of society? Absolutely not. We need that. We need to balance it with something else. We need to have the dark and the light and all that. But yeah, totally. I mean, I just think, own it. Yeah, my superpower. Exactly. That's, you know, it's so much better than it was years ago when no one would talk about any of it.
Well, I mean, that's part of the struggles George had. I mean, like, it was
especially
just,
coming up the time he did.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, coming up the time he did, he couldn't be who he wanted to be, and it ruined a lot of his life in many different ways.
Well, I'm the widow of a suicide. You know, I know about things ruining your life, and one of the things I feel absolutely delighted about is that my second child is able to declare I'm going to be non-binary, and the world can cope with that. I am absolutely, you know, I can only be proud, very, very proud of them. What makes me sad is that I didn't even have the language for that a couple of years ago, and then I was going to National Go just after I died, and there was this graphic thing on queer theory, and I thought, I'll buy that for Matthew. Like me, naive mum, he's way ahead of you, love. He's known for years. You know? But I wish we could have had that. I could have had that conversation with Ed, because he was, my God, was he queer? You know, he was just identifying all over the place, but there was no room in his little world, his family, for that. And so, consequently, long before I met him, he suffered from such issues of identity. He could never have said that his illness was a superpower. He could never have owned that, and that's really sad, you know. One of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing. One of the reasons, you know, George was as queer as they come in every possible. I mean, it's gay, but he was also like men, women, whatever. He never an issue. And I, you know, if I could, that is my, you know, my mission is to go into primary schools and say, you be what you want to be.
And be free to express it and feel safe to express it, and hopefully the world can be safer for that expression to come out.
Once you get past that, when people are continually in their head about being gay or being bipolar or being too tall or too small or whatever it is, they're only thinking about them. The minute you get past that, you look around and go, oh shit, there's all these, I need to help that person, or I want to speak to that person. You want to be out in the world, don't you?
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, we've Black Lives Matter. Blimey, I would have been there. Were you in the march? I was there.
I wasn't, I'm afraid.
I was
stuck in work.
I was working nearby, and I was like sort of chanting out the window.
You know, if you're having to constantly deal with the fact that people are judging you because of this stupid thing that you were born with, you're wasting time. When you could just be getting on with being the best you know, whatever that best you is. And that is,
and
you know,
but the issue is the many people out there that stomp people down for wanting to do that. And a lot of the times, my biggest hate in the world is when someone finally gets to that point and they're like, this is me, and I've kept myself pushed down for so long, thinking and overthinking about this being me and that being me, but no, I'm okay with all of that. And you take that one notch up the ladder, and then the thing I hate most in the world is that there's still so many backward-minded people that want to just be a bit more higher up that ladder and then just kick you down that same notch again, and then that makes you want to go back into your shell again. Which
the haters will be the haters. The haters will be the haters.
That's the thing.
You know, I believe to my dying breath that there's more good than bad in the world. I believe that. The problem is the good people are quieter, and you have to remember that old thing is, you know, bad things happen because good people do nothing, and that's you know, that is it. You know, don't and so I absolutely admire someone like George. I admire people like you. You're out there, you're doing it, you're talking about it. Don't shut up. Don't give the haters any opportunity.
Now, what I will say is, for people hearing this, you can probably tell how a lot of my opinions on my own issues were formed, because Harriet over there, you helped me fucking sit there and go, well shit, these are my issues. Who cares? I'll sit in this room, this group, and I'll happily talk about it in front of people. You know, scars on my arm, don't care. This is what's happened. This is where I am. This is where I've been.
This is where you've been. This is my journey. You know, if you want to know about it, I can tell you. But you know, the least I can do is listen to other people's journeys, and then you listen
exactly.
to mine. Yeah.
But you helped me come out of the box in that way and sort of show my sort of that side of me, because I was trying to hide it all. And then it just wasn't healthy.
If that's true, and I feel incredibly.
And it is true. It's not.
It's true. That all you can do is just carry that on, isn't it? Pass it on. Pass it on. You know, I was immensely bad at asking for help until Ed died, and then I just had to. There was no way around that one. I just had to reach out for the first time and not be, doing it. I had to say, shit, I'm in a fucking big hole. And my goodness me, it was the most amazing experience, because you realise I can never thank that person as much. I can't really pay them back like for what they've done for me. All I can do is pass it on. I can just say, that was amazing what those people did. And look, bloody hell, let's not get too mushy here, but it was a pretty equal one. It was pretty bloody equal. I asked you guys, I said, would you mind doing it? I keep saying to people, every single person I've asked to do a testimonial for me has gone, yeah, when? Like, no question. They're just like there to support it. And I'm just like, whoa, what a bunch of lovely people. So look, come on, that many lovely people. Even in this small area, even in the southwest, which is the back end of bloody nowhere, we'll be all right.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about what the exciting stuff you've got planned is, and your website and everything?
Yay! Well, what am I doing? The company is called Show Up, because that's kind of where it's at. I would love to say that was my idea, but it was a collaborative idea with the company I'm working with at the moment to do all the logo and the website and everything. And the idea, what I've been doing for years, when Ed died, I wanted to do something for mental health. It was obvious for obvious reasons. And I kind of travelled around. I went on a road trip. I just got in the car and drove and met people and phoned people up who did charity and said, hello, I want to talk to you. And they'd say, why? And I say, I don't know. Okay, everybody I asked, again, that's why I believe there's more good than bad. Everyone I've asked to be involved, everyone I've asked questions and said, yeah, no problem, give them their time for free, etc. Came out the other side and thought, shit, I'm doing it anyway. I work in primary schools. I work with young people who are mostly fairly mentally healthy at that age. They can express themselves. They can be who they are. And then all that weight comes down, Yeah. And so, as you came with me into primaries. I've done that work for years. So I thought, well, this is what I need to do. I need to carry on doing this, but in a bigger way, not just a few schools, as many as I can get to. And so one thing led to another. And I realised this was the year to do it. Along comes COVID, and I go, oh, God. And I thought, oh, God, just a wimp. If you're going to do it, just do it. So probably maybe the worst time, or maybe the best time. I've given up my job. I am going to spend 3 days a week going to schools for free in order to deliver the stuff and keep it going. And the other 2 days, I'm going out to find sponsors to get money so that I can not only do this stuff in schools, but I can do it on a proper level. I can give them kind of a bit more what you had. You had a bit more money in arts in back in the day, and we were able to go into the primaries. We were able to do productions which were great. We had enough money, or enough backing at least, to say to someone like Graham, look, give me the £1,000, you'll get it paid back, but put it up front so we can do a really good production here of Grease or whatever it was. I want those kids to do proper stuff, Shakespeare, Dickens, Hans Christian Andersen, not dumb it down. So I go in, I work with them once a week. We do a production at the end of it. I write it. I've been writing scripts. I've got scripts coming out my ears. I'm just doing Hamlet for primary schools.
Oh, Christ, that's going to be a good one.
Get in. I thought, challenge? Which play do I think is the most difficult to do with primary schools? Hamlet. I'm going to do it. So it's all about collaboration. Matthew. Not my son anymore. I only have one son. The other one came up with the word today, which I just love, which is triumphant. He said that's better than celebratory. Celebratory is all about the end. Triumphant is about getting over those obstacles, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is not about theatre. Love theatre. This is not about teaching kids to act. I love all that. This is about life skills, transferable skills, showing up, not giving in. When you do the total pratfall, You pick yourself up from it and you carry on, because that's why you're sitting here today doing this, is because, you know, you've had some shit happen to you and you've kept going. And that's it, isn't it? That's the essence of everything, is I'm okay. I'm okay. Now I'm feeling like crap.
And it's stuff that's not taught enough. It's not stuff that's not taught enough at a younger age. So we admire what you're doing, and we want anybody who is listening and everybody who is listening to show their support. And where can they show you support?
Well, I'm afraid it's not going to be launched till September, but I've got a domain, which makes me sound like somebody out of Lord of the Rings. My domain is going to be called Show Up Now, but I mean, there'll be lots more. The minute we get going with this, you'll be able to put it out there, because you'll be in this position on the website. I'm just literally looking at the the things. There's going to be, the first thing they'll see are the testimonials. I don't know who's going to be first on that yet. We'll have a competition, and whoever wins or loses has to drink a whole bottle of vodka. I don't know, but anyway.
That's an easy task.
But I like the idea of going back. I want to start with you guys and where you are now, and then go back to the little ones. You know, the journey you've had, I think is interesting. Most interesting for the sponsors to say, this isn't just bullshit. These are kids who can take it back and say, look, this is what made a difference to me. The curriculum in schools at the moment is so repressive, much worse than when you were there. You were the last guys who did something which I believed in. I don't teach anything I believe in schools anymore, except for the primaries. When I go in there, it's fun, for starters. It's fun. We have a laugh. I still have a picture of you wearing a sheet as a toga for Mrs. Strong. I mean, come on, that was good. You know, those lessons, sometimes I'd have to stop teaching because I was going to pee my pants. I was laughing so much.
Do you still have any pictures of me as Nursey?
I don't know, but you know what I mean. That was good. And we just, it was a riot, but at the same time we learned things, and you did okay in your exams and all that bollocks, which is, you know, that's life. You know, no one said, oh no, you didn't get that exam. I'm not throwing baby out with the bathwater.
No,
I don't think anyone cared about the exams. All we wanted to do at the end of the day was, you gave us tenacity. Cross-dressing, that was the main aim. I had to go into transvesticism at some point. No, it was I was never been a coursework person. I've never been an exam person, apart from like the 1 hour that I do have to show up and actually have to write something to get a grade. But I hated all that. I would much rather you tell us what you want us to do, give us a script, tell us to go on stage in front of people and go make tits of ourselves. It's so much more fun.
You're feeling it's the collaborative thing is huge, isn't it? But you're also part of a team, which is so crucial. And also you are being made to feel that you're worth something. And that's everything, isn't it, in life? We all would like to have the clap at the end. You know, whatever we say, it's true.
Well, it doesn't matter how small or how big your part is. You're still part of that ensemble that's going to get clapped.
And it's dealing with the fear beforehand as well. It's the anticipation of going, wow, I've got to actually go on stage. I don't know if I can be able to do this. And then it's proving to yourself you can do it. And then you do it. And then you get the gratification that you go, wow, not only was that silly to be that nervous and stuff beforehand, but it instills some empowerment into yourself and like helps yourself with
when it comes to the next time. And that may not be on stage. It may be actually having to make your point. You're empowered enough to say, look, I did it and I survived that, and I really, really didn't think I was going to. So, okay, this is a kind of similar situation. You know, that to me is the transferable life skill. Is, you know, being able to say, I've been down there, but I managed to get up out again. It's all right. You know, when I dried on stage that time. I dug myself out of the hole. I did. And
you think of the amount of holes we dug ourselves there on stage. Christ, I swore on mic. Can't drop this down.
And also the people you meet along the way, and the people who you don't expect to, people who you dismiss. School is all about, as you say, putting people in cliques. And what I love about drama is you get a bunch of people together who take one look at each other first lesson and think, what the fuck? I'm in this group. And then after a few months, they're like, okay, that person's good at that. That's the person who's good at that. Yeah. You know, Amy drives me mad. She's so bloody bossy, but would we get anywhere without her? You know,
exactly.
The arse all the time. You know, Jamie. I remember standing outside Jamie booking, and he was just seething. He was like this. He said, Look, they're not listening. I've got the right idea. I said, you've got the right idea, Jimmy. And actually, as it goes, yours is the best idea, but not the best idea for all them. And you've got to work with them. And that was a huge learning curve for him. He's just qualified to be a primary teacher, for Christ's sake. That's a boy who learned some stuff, you know. He's just soared because he's been able to go, do you know what? I am right. I have got good ideas, but sometimes I have to let other people do it, you know? Yeah. And that's huge. That's big. That's not drama. That's life. So, I'm still as passionate as ever I was about it. More inspired than ever. It's so lovely to see you. I can't tell you how much I would like to gush more, but I won't because then you'll get all of that. But, you know, it's just wonderful. You know, there you are. I say all this stuff about the kids that I taught, and I go on and on about your group, but here you are, and look, in the flesh, there, right there, talking to me now. being amazing people out there doing it, not just sitting, you know, not letting life happen to you. That's the important bit, isn't it? Yeah. You've got, you're in charge. So, and I'm thrilled to be telling you all about George Michael, boring you to death about George Michael.
Well, that's it. I think I can speak for Connor on here as well and say we will have you back on again. It's not just a one-time deal. And especially,
well, I'm happy to do another album sometime, or talk about any old shit. You know me. I, as you know, I'm a real shrinking violet. I can't talk at all, but I'll give it a go. But but what I'm also saying is, look, 25th. We're going to have an absolute ball. You've got to all come. Bring your sleeping bags. Bring a bottle of whatever. We'll get the recording out the way quickly, and then we can have a right laugh. Yeah. We need to do a script. I'm thinking, Jake.
I think that would be a good idea. But we can only start actually rehearsing it and performing it once we've already had a few drinks in us.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, Cluedo was a pretty memorable evening.
Yeah.
But I think we could possibly top that. I'll see who's coming, and I'm going to throw a little something together before the 25th, just for us, so that we can do a bit of improv.
I like the sound of that. And on that note, we will be ending the podcast now. It's been an absolute fucking pleasure. And like I said,
it's been lovely.
I've loved it. Oh my God. It's been so cool. Okay. I'm going to go off and live my life. Go